This company continues to crush it. Now, at a cheaper price, Q Acoustics has just come out with the new 3000 series. I've already done a video on the 3030C. This is on the 3020C. And spoiler, it is awesome. Not perfect, and we're gonna talk about that. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, maybe through your new cheap Audio Man coffee mug, which is linked in the description, and let's talk about the brand new Q Acoustics 3020C. Spring and summer are right around the corner, and what better way to get the family together to introduce your favorite music than with the Soundcore Rave 3S. Take your favorite music track, hit the AI voice removal, and you have super easy karaoke in your own backyard. The AI vocal removal turns any song into a karaoke track with just one click.
We flow, we grind, we walk.
And you can adjust the vocals to the level you want. Comes with 2 wireless microphones, which provide crystal clear vocals with a built-in remote control. And this thing puts out 200 watts of powerful sound. You can fill up almost 1,100 square feet with audiophile yumminess. It's vibrant energy, ensuring that every beat hits just right. Plus, you can have a light show that creates an engaging visual atmosphere that syncs with your music. 12 hours of battery life. In-app customization to set up all the lights and fun stuff. It's portable, you got reverb, and you can bring the whole family together. You can bring your friends together and you can have song battles with your favorite music because you just hit the AI voice removal and let the Soundcore Rave 3S do the rest. This is your all-in-one party speaker. It's also super easy to set up. My daughter had it running in less than a minute. Turn it on, connect your favorite device through Bluetooth, grab the mic, hit the AI voice remover, and you'll be the star of your very own show with the microphone. So check out the Soundcore Rave 3S to have a blast with your friends, have a blast with your family this spring and summer. So check out the Soundcore Rave 3S in the description. There'll be a link. There's also a huge promotion. If you spend $1, you get a $60 coupon. Links in the description. Thank you, Soundcore, for sponsoring today's video. So Q Acoustics has released, it looks like, 3 new speakers. The 3020C, which comes in at $549 in the US. However, you may be able to get a better price on these in the UK because that is often the case, especially with the 5000 series. I don't know if the 3000 series is just a US speaker, but you may want to check it out because Q and Wharfedale and some other brands are actually cheaper in Europe than they are here, which makes them an even better deal. You also have the 3010C, which comes in at $400, and the 3030C, which is the big one, coming in at $699. Personally, I think the 3020C is kind of the sweet spot, and I'll tell you why when I get into the sound comparisons. The previous generation, the 3000i series, is still available. The 3020i is coming in at $100 cheaper at $449, and I like the newer generation quite a bit better than the 3020i. We'll again get into that later. Some marketing jargon. It has a new ground up C3, and I'm not saying that this is just jargon and it's a bunch of BS. I'm just saying what they've written, okay? This is where I read stuff on the internet. New ground up C3, pronounced C cubed. Continuous curved cone mid-bass profile woofer ensures superior bass dynamics and smoother integration with a high frequency driver. I would agree with part of that. Some of this technology I think is trickling all the way down from the Concept series, but this is not the same exact driver. Point-to-point bracing, they call it P2PTM. You're gonna remember that one, I bet. Anyway, it's good bracing. Q Acoustics has always been good about bracing and keeping their cabinet as inert as possible. I will say that this speaker, the 3020C, is much more balanced as far as its center of gravity than the 3030C, which is the bigger brother. That one felt like it was a little bit front heavy. This one, not front heavy. Does that make a difference? I don't know. It just seems a little bit more solid. Boast a clean and contemporary aesthetic with sophisticated satin metallic driver trims. It is kind of nice. Available in new finishes. Pin oak, claro walnut, satin white, satin black. They were gonna go with Himalayan swine bark. That got shot down. I think that was a mistake. I think people really wanted the Himalayan swine bark. We have a stated frequency response of 60 hertz up to 30K. I think the 60 is very conservative. I'll tell you why when we get into the sound experience. The cheap Audio Man sound experience. Nominal impedance 6 ohms. Minimum impedance 3.7 ohms. Sensitivity 87 dB. Recommended amplifier power, blah, 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 25 to 90. Crossed over at 2600, and that's kind of interesting. We'll get in, because that's kind of a high crossover point for a soft dome tweeter. We'll get into that later, though. That can't be right. It says the bass unit is only a 4.75, and it seems like a 5 1/4, but anyway, it's pretty darn good if it's only 4.75 inches. Treble unit is 0.9 inches. Bunch of metric shenanigans. Why do they use metric as far as millimeters in the UK, but then they use miles? Don't they use miles in the UK? Doesn't make any sense to me. Why is that? Explain it in the comments, please. Quite a bit smaller than the 3030Cs. Comes in at 12.1 pounds.
Back in that bag again. Whoa, yeah.
If you're new here, please consider subscribing. You can do it right down here, right below this area right here. You can click on it. You can always unsubscribe later. Thank you so much for watching. Got some nice touches to it, even for an affordable speaker. So you got the curvy on the front, very similar to the 5000 series. You have that nice beauty ring outside. Looks like a snowman, fat snowman. On the back you have port. It's a hole in the back. This also comes with foam port bungs. It's such a weird name. If you want to seal this thing up, or you can roll up a pair of socks in there, which I do all the time. I used to actually use not a used diaper, but a clean diaper when the kids were young. I'd roll those up and stick them in the port. Always worked out very well. Just make sure it's unused. And then you have these really cool binding posts on the back, which lay flat, kind of. I mean, they stick out a little bit, but they mostly lay flat, which is very cool. It's a nice touch. It's very nice. A lot of companies kind of cheap out as far as the binding posts on the back, but these are really cool. I listen to a bunch of music. So first of all, I've had these hooked up in the living room for quite a while. So I was running all TV, movies, basically if the TV was on, it was coming out of these Q3020Cs. One of the things that I noticed initially, which got better, wasn't completely balanced across the mid-range, especially with male and female vocals. So there was something going on. The coolest thing about watching TV and movies is I get an immediate kind of initial impressions about a speaker, especially in the mid-range. Gives me an idea when I start listening to music like super intently, and then I can go into the EQ and start tweaking things around so I kind of understand what is going on with the frequency response. It should also be noted that I felt like these speakers were playing their best when I put them on the new Emotiva, which I just did that video yesterday, which for whatever reason is getting a little bit of hate in the comments. If you want to check that video out though, it's the previous video I did on the Emotiva A2L Plus. I think the title, which for whatever reason made people mad, I think the title is, will this destroy the cheap import amp invasion? Which I thought was a clever title. People didn't like it though. Some people didn't like it. Anyway, I thought these speakers sounded the best on that amplifier. Previously, I had them hooked up to one of my favorite amplifiers, the Advanced Paris A10 Classic. I did have to turn on the loudness control with the A10 Classic. Also had to use a bit of tone controls on the A10 Classic. When I switched it over to the Weem Ultra as a front end into the Emotiva A2L Plus, I thought I got better. Now, these could have just needed a little bit of breaking in. This wasn't a brand new pair, so I think it was a marketing pair. I have no idea how long they played though. But it seemed like either the amplifier was a much better pairing with the 3020Cs, or they broke in a little bit. Either way, everything got better, especially on the bottom end and the top end. So it seemed like they opened up a little bit more. Was that break-in? Was that the amp? We'll never know. I have a lot of tracks to go over here. I also did some screen recordings of Decibel X, which is an app I use all of the time. So it's a SPL meter, uses the microphone in your phone, and it's also a real-time analyzer. So it's really useful when you're listening to a speaker and you want to know what is going on where. Where is the snare drum? Where is the cymbal? Where is the female vocal, especially if she's above whatever is going on in the background. So you can really dial in and figure out what frequency is going on with what instrument or which voice. So I said we'd talk about it, and there's a little bit of wonkiness going on in the mid-range. And when I say wonkiness, I just think there was a couple of peaks that I didn't particularly like. 500 hertz, 1K, and then even 2K. Initially, I brought down 500 hertz and 2K about 1 dB. And I think that balanced out the mid-range, so male and female vocals were a little bit more in line. But I was listening to Lena Hall, her cover of Creep, which is fantastic. When she really goes all the way up in the register and holds that note for a long time, it was right at 1,000 hertz. And I felt that frequency especially was a little bit forward. So I brought it down just a titch. And when I brought down 500, 1K, and 2K, a dB, wasn't even that much. Things really balanced out in the mid-range. I'm not saying that you have to do that, but to get them to be exactly where I wanted them to be, that's what I had to do. This is also a bit track dependent, because when I listened to Suicide Blonde that by NXS, great song, at the beginning of the song, there's some harmonica that comes in. And that to me felt like it was a little bit forward too. But after that, I didn't really notice really anything that I needed to EQ. One of the biggest surprises I had with this speaker, especially since it has a stated roll-off, low frequency roll-off is 60 hertz, I didn't think this speaker was going to be super dynamic and punchy. And when I first started listening to it, I didn't really hear it. But Wow by Beck is a very dynamic track. And there is a bit of a bass drop, which goes all the way down. And with the real-time analyzer, it was around 70 hertz, which is lower than you think it is. And the 3020Cs did a masterful job. I didn't think they were going to be able to hit that note with any type of authority, and they did. Very impressed with Wow. That's a cool track too. You should listen to that. Usually a speaker of this size starts to show its limitations in the high 80s. The 3020Cs from Q Acoustics was playing confidently in the low 90s. Really was holding itself together as loud as I wanted to hear it. That may have something to do with the point-to-point bracing, but it has something to do with the driver construction too, because the woofer and the tweeter were both holding on just fine at even louder levels. Killing Strangers, Marilyn Manson, it's a very bassy song. And you'll hear the limitations of a small bookshelf speaker that's not beefy as far as the build quality of the woofer very quickly on that song. That's also a very airy song as far as placing things in space. And the 3020Cs did a great job. Wonderful job. Spectacular job. As far as treble goes, there was never anything. It's a really good test when you're listening to a speaker and you don't think this is rolled off, and you don't think, oh, this is spike. You just don't even think about treble because it just sounds so natural and in place. And that's the experience that I had with the 3020Cs, which is also very similar to the experience I have with the more expensive 5000 series. Which leads me into my final thoughts. How do these stack up to the competition at the price point? How do these stack up to their more expensive, bigger brothers, the 5000 series? Well, they're a different sonic signature than stuff like, gosh, my phone's going off, than stuff like the ELAC Debut 3.0, which is coming in about $100 or $200 lower than this. That's a much warmer speaker. Very different than the Emotiva XB2s, which is coming in at $500. Those are kind of the two speakers that I'm most familiar with. So I think it falls right in the middle. You have rolled off with the ELAC. The 3020C is going to be more neutral, but still dynamic. And then the Emotivas are going to be really emphasized on the top end and really punchy on the bottom and a little bit cooler in the mid-range. So which one you want depends on what you like coming from a speaker and what the rest of your system looks like. Comparing these to the 5000 series, I think the 5000 series has a little bit more richness going on in the mid-range, especially the lower mid-range. I think the 5000 series has a more balanced mid-range. The 3020C, while different, still maintains the dynamics of the 5000 series and the top end kind of balance. While it's still airy, it's still clean, it still has clarity, but it's not so forward that you notice that you kind of feel like it's out of balance or boosted. Comparing the 3020C to the 3030C, the bigger speaker in the new 3000 series line, I like the 3020C a lot better. I think the 3030C is a little bit too emphasized on the bottom end and less emphasized in the mid-range. 3020C doesn't have a perfect mid-range as far as balance. There is some peaks. Overall, I think it's a spectacular speaker at the price, and I think it's a major improvement upon the previous 3000i series, which I thought was a lot more neutral and a lot less dynamic than the new 3000C series. Q Acoustics continues to crush it, and I think the 3020C is a major contender in the $500 price point. Again, if you're in Europe, in the UK, I think you might be able to get these even cheaper. The amplifier I thought that sounded the best on these was the Emotiva A2L+. I will link that video right here if you want to check it out. It's a great, very affordable amplifier that puts out perfect power, perfect amount of power, 50 watts into 8, 90 watts into 4. If you want to support the channel, you can buy one of my new t-shirts. This is screen printed, very high-end t-shirts. They're about sold out. I will link that in the description. You can also get one of my coffee mugs, which I will link in the description. Yay! So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen maybe through your new Q Acoustics 3020Cs and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.